We all grew up watching tons of cartoon. For me, my childhood was basically all about cartoons and cricket. But I never thought I'd still be watching cartoon as an adult. I mean, cartoons are for kids. Well, that's not true anymore. Not only are cartoons no longer for kids, but some of them shouldn't even be watched by kids at all. Have you ever noticed how common things like violence, adult themes, and complex emotional stories have become in cartoons today? If you ever found yourself thinking, cartoons were different back in our day, then this video is definitely for you.
You see that, Brian? That's going to be our penises later, right?
We are going to explore how the medium of animation has evolved and why is it no longer just for kids. When animation first started in the 1930s, its main purpose was just family entertainment. Walt Disney introduced Mickey Mouse in 1928. And it completely revolutionized the world of animation. Although Mickey Mouse and other Disney classics were initially made to entertain adults too. Early Mickey Mouse cartoons actually showed things like alcohol consumption, some firearms and light violence maybe. But over the period of time, Disney shifted to more family-friendly content. Then came Warner Brothers with shows like Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies in the 1930s. These were originally shown in theaters before the main feature films, so they also had elements meant for the adult audience. Characters like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Porky Pig entertained us with their slapstick comedy and visual gags. Tom and Jerry, created in the 1940s, was all about simple slapstick violence. Like Tom getting hit by a hammer, getting flattened, or maybe blown up by a bomb. This violence was over the top, but it never actually showed any consequences. Tom would always be perfectly fine in the next sequence. A key things about these early cartoons were that their morals and lessons were very simple. Good versus bad was very clear. Like the hero was always good and the villains were always bad. The stories were straightforward and every episode usually had a positive ending. So yes, in the early cartoons, the music, the stories, even the animation style was light and cheerful.
Look! Coffins! 5 of them!
And the empty one's like dog-shaped.
Wrong way?
Now the arrival of television completely transformed animation. Now cartoons were being made specifically to be broadcasted on a TV. The Flintstones was the first prime-time animated show created for families. It had some adult jokes but was mostly family-friendly. It was basically the story of a modern family set in a prehistoric world. It discussed on adult themes like marriage problems, workplace issues, and dealing with neighbors. But it was all presented in a children-friendly way. The Jetsons, it was another family show that was set in future and it commented on automation and technology. It was mainly for families but had a layer of subtle social commentary. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? It was a show based on solving mysteries and investigation, but it was still appropriate for kids. The monsters always turned out to be fake and the danger was limited. In the 70s and 80s, some superhero cartoons got popular like Super Friends.
This time I'll not bother putting thee in the dungeon.
If it's swordplay you want, it's swordplay you'll get.
It had violence, but it was very controlled and non-graphic, and the heroes were always morally perfect.
I know you're here, Luthor. Show yourself.
Now let's talk about a show that actually started to entertain adults.
Men, there's a little crippled boy sitting in the hospital who wants you to win this game. I know because I crippled him myself to inspire you.
By bringing animation to primetime television, The Simpsons proved that cartoons could entertain adults as much as kids. Matt Groening first created it as a series of short segments for The Tracy Ullman Show. When the full series launched in 1989, it was a satirical take on a dysfunctional American family. The Simpsons tackled sensitive topics like religion, politics, education system, and family dynamics. The show also featured celebrity cameos, some pop culture references, and commentary on current events. Its success proved that there was huge scope in social commentary and adult or mature humor in animation. Over its 30 plus seasons, the show has covered or talked about a lot of controversial topics like homosexuality, criticism of religion, political corruption, and environmental issues.
If the Lord is all-powerful, why does he care whether we worship him or not?
It's because God is powerful, but also insecure.
Now let's talk about one of my favorite cartoons of all time or series of all time, the Batman animated series.
I am the knight. I am Batman.
This series actually played a huge role in bringing darkness and complexity in animation. Created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, it had a film noir aesthetic and an art deco design. The series created complex villains with tragic backstories, like Mr. Freeze, who committed crimes to save his dying wife. The violence felt realistic and it had consequences. The show introduced moral dilemma as well. I mean, even Batman would sometimes make questionable decisions. Emmy-winning episodes like Heart of Ice were emotionally mature. The show's music was orchestral, which was a completely different approach from other typical cartoons. This show proved that deep character development and emotional storytelling were possible in animation.
Come on, don't be shy.
I think I know the answer, Mr. Garrison. Shut up, fat boy! Hey, don't call me fat, you fucking Jew!
Eric, did you just say the F word?
Jew?
Now this has to be the most absurd, most hilarious animated show ever. The South Park.
How would you like to go see the school counselor?
How would you like to suck my balls?
What did you say?
I'm sorry. Actually, what I said was... How would you like to suck my balls, Mr. Garrison?
And yes, it is the most controversial show on planet Earth, I think. South Park literally set a new benchmark for pushing the boundaries. Trey Parker and Matt Stone intentionally created a show that was offensive and controversial. Despite its crude animation style, it addressed complex social and political issues. It openly commented on religious criticism, political satire, and taboo topics. Organizations like the Parents Television Councils launched campaign against it, but the creators fought against censorship and took a stand for freedom of expression. And the controversies and banning the episode only made the show more popular. So South Park proved that animation could be deliberately used for adults only and as a platform for social criticism.
Go ahead, here! Huh? Go ahead, Mom, fuck me! Fuck me right here in the Best Buy!
Now let's talk about anime. So yes, anime was a game changer, anime is a game changer. And let me tell you why. So 1990s was the arrival of anime in the Western audience. Dragon Ball Z had graphic violence, death and complex character arcs. It was very different from Western standards. Pokemon seemed like it was made for kids, but it explored deeper themes like moral complexity and companionship. Neon Genesis Evangelion explored themes like psychological trauma, depression, and existential crisis. Anime showed Western creators that the possibilities of storytelling in animation were truly unlimited. And today, the influence of anime is clearly visible in every kind of animation, even in every kind of media, I would say.
You're an atheist. Offend God. Say something you couldn't say on TV.
Hey, God. Not me. You can't say that. No.
After the 2000s, animation saw an explosion of diversity. Now, specific type of content was made for specific targeted audience. Animation was once very niche, but it has now become mainstream. Family Guy. I mean, this show completely relies on offensive humor, pop culture references, and controversial jokes. Do you know that this show was cancelled at first, but it was brought back due to fans' demand? So you now know that people are actually hungry for this kind of animation, for this kind of humor. Rick and Morty, this sci-fi adventure show was from Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland. Explores deep nihilism, existential dread, and scientific concepts. Rick's character here actually deals with a lot of problems: alcoholism, narcissism, and maybe depression. And all of these are clearly adult themes. This show is not for kids. BoJack Horseman. This is a dark comedy show about depression, addiction, and Hollywood culture.
You were right. I don't love you. You don't love me. We're just two lonely people trying to hate ourselves a little less.
This show's creator intentionally centered the story on the mental health struggles of a former sitcom star. It tackled topics like suicide attempts, drug overdoses, and sexual misconduct. Archer, an adult spy comedy filled with violence, sexual content, and adult references. The main character, Sterling Archer, is an alcoholic, a womanizer, and deeply flawed. So now we know what were the common traits of all of these animated shows that were released during the 2000s. They had extreme violence, gore, explicit language, sexual themes, and discussion on very controversial topics. And this was actually the beginning of animation, which was deliberately made for adult audiences. Now, these kind of shows were actually only restricted to the adult audience. But there's another thing called dual layered animation. One of the most fascinating aspects of modern animation is dual layered content. Shows that seem to be made for kids on surface, but they are actually catering to multiple audience. Adventure Time. On the surface, this show looks colorful and fun, but it actually explores deep themes. These include a post-apocalyptic world, the main character Finn's complex emotional development, mental health issues like depression, complex relationships, and heartbreak, and even some LGBTQ representation. Over the Garden Wall, this one is my favorite because it is so aesthetically pleasing and it is also one of the highest rated animated show. This miniseries is actually wrapped in fairy tale aesthetics but deals with dark themes like death, the afterlife, and depression. I highly recommend you to watch this one because I love it. Gravity Falls. This mystery show seems to be about a pair of twins on a summer adventure. But it features demonic possession, government conspiracies, apocalyptic prophecies, complex family trauma, hidden codes, and genuinely disturbing villains like Bill Cipher. So this multi-layered approach actually allowed kids to enjoy these shows for their surface level adventure while the adults can appreciate the deeper themes. Now let's talk about anime again because anime is actually now a huge part of the entertainment landscape and it is redefining what cartoons mean for the world. I'll take example of 3 anime. The number 1 is Death Note, a psychological thriller that questions morality and ethics. The main character Light Yagami is morally grey. He's technically the villain, but the audience sees the story from his perspective. Attack on Titan. This has to be my favorite anime. It explores a lot of deep themes like genocide, fascism, discrimination, religion, and I actually like the depiction of war in this anime. This is clearly for adults. The third anime is Vinland Saga. I think I have mentioned this anime maybe 1,000 times on this channel and my other channels as well. This anime is filled with violence, but violence is not the core of this anime. The core of this anime is revenge, redemption, the cycle of violence, the cycle of revenge, and many other complicated themes. There's a high chance that this anime will change you as a person. And apart from these 3, there are a lot of popular anime like Chainsaw Man, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach. So yes, anime is currently ruling the world. I think nowadays everyone is getting influenced by anime because in anime I have seen such special art styles, such mature themes, and the level of storytelling is just different. I think it is very important to understand the psychological impact these cartoons can have on children. Studies show that cartoons with mature themes can have a significant impact on a child's emotional development and worldview. Exposure to violence can lead to desensitization if the context and consequences aren't shown properly. However, shows with some moral complexities can help develop kids' critical thinking skills, but with the right guidance. So if you are a parent, you should actively pre-screen the show or the content that your kid is gonna watch and maybe check the ratings and reviews as well. Apart from the storytelling and the complicated themes, there's one more reason why cartoons are being made for adults these days. Because viewers in the 18 to 34 age group have disposable income and can spend it on merchandise, streaming subscriptions, and conventions. The success of programming blocks like Adult Swim proved that adult animation is profitable. Conventions like Comic-Con can also prove the popularity of animation among adults. Streaming platforms like Prime Video, Hulu, Netflix have made animation mainstream. These streaming platforms are commissioning more and more adult animated content because they have realized that audience is consuming them in huge amount. And there's the nostalgia factor, which is again very important because the kids that grew up in the 80s or the 90s are paying for the content they can rewatch and that can remind them of their childhood. This has led to a lot of reboots and revivals with mature themes like He-Man and Thundercats. And the original creators are getting opportunities to continue their stories for the mature audience, which was once very young. Do you know that the real profit often comes from merchandise like action figures, cosplay outfits, and the posters that are actually sold at the conventions? A medium that was once considered just cartoons for kids has now become one of the most sophisticated, thought-provoking, and creative forms of storytelling in the world. And I think that the true power of animation is that it can literally tell any kind of story. I mean, stories that are not even possible to tell in live action. Let's take an example, the Berserk anime. I mean, there's no way that story can be told in a live action series. But in animation, that story is pushing every kind of boundary. I think the future of animation is actually very exciting because the technology is advancing, the creators are becoming very creative, and I think this medium will evolve for a long time. Anyway, in the comment section, let me know what is your favorite adult animated show. And if you found this video entertaining or informative, please drop a like and maybe you can subscribe as well. And I'll see you in the next one.
So tell me you got it right.